Greetings. Lately, I have been contemplating the idea of unity and the idea of separation. I said that lately I've been contemplating it. I think I've been contemplating it for a very long time. And I remember when the film Cloud Atlas came out, which of course is an adaptation of David Mitchell's book by the same name. There were some kind of beautiful and lofty ideas or expressions of ideas in that film that resonated with me very deeply, that I've kind of carried with me since that time. And so in order to kind of frame today's contemplation of unity and separation, I wanted to share one of the quotes from that film that touched me. And this excerpt is taken from a letter that is being written between two lovers in the film. I understand now that boundaries between noise and sound are conventions. All boundaries are conventions waiting to be transcended. One may transcend any convention if only one can first conceive of doing so. In moments like this, I can feel your heart beating as clearly as I feel my own, and I know that separation is an illusion. For my life extends far beyond the limitations of me. Gives me the tinglies. So, is separation an illusion? Is unity an illusion? Is one of those things more, let me use more precise language, is one of those ideas more or less true than the other? And I guess for the purposes of conversation, we should define some parameter and say that, at least for this contemplation, we're referring to the body of humanity. I think in the novel and in the film, the writer of the letter, the character, is making a metaphysical statement, but also a personal suggestion to his lover that he feels very connected across space and time. So, but for the purposes of this contemplation, let's say that we're talking about the body of humanity. Is separation within the body of humanity an illusion? Does that imply that unity is more real? I think from my experience, if one is looking for separation, one is going to find it. And if one is looking for unity, one is going to find unity. So what do I mean by that? It's very easy for me to look around and, at least in a very lighthearted, mental way, identify differences between me and the people around me. I can identify, typical things: hair color, skin color, height, weight, eye color, socioeconomic status. These differentiators are, at least the ones that I've just named, are, in my experience, to a large degree superficial. Because once you begin to dive deeper into the makeup of a human being, once you learn more about kind of character traits and virtues of a person, and their gifts that they brought with them into this incarnation. Once you dive deeper to that level of knowing someone, some of that superficial stuff, like hair color and height and weight and even socioeconomic status, seems less and less interesting. But even at the deeper level, you're contemplating how that person is separate from you. You're operating on that wavelength. And I've used the phrase body of humanity, which in a way is sort of an implication of unity, and in a way it's not. Let's look at the human body and think about the cells in a human body. So it's easy to understand that you have a physical body that's made up of trillions of cells. And it's easy to understand that each of the cells in your physical body has a particular programming. It has a function. It has a way of moving through its experience. It has a particular relationship with the whole. So a neuron that's firing across a synapse in your brain knows why it's there. It knows what its purpose is, and it performs its function. The cells in a layer of skin in your little toe do something completely different. So there's separation in that all these trillions of cells are essentially living different lives, but they're all part of one body. Similarly, in humanity, there are billions of people living out individual lives. But regardless of whether or not they individually acknowledge it, we are all part of one larger body, which is what I mean by the human body. So, if you look to see the unity, then you'll find the unity. First, we looked to find separation. I understand myself as consciousness inhabiting a male physical body with particular gifts. I live in a particular place. You may be separate from me in that you may have more money, you may have better physique, you may have higher intelligence, you may be less sensitive, you may be... So we can identify all those traits and characteristics at all the different levels that make us separate. But then I can also shift my perception and understand that that separation is, in one way, an illusion. I can make the choice to raise my level of awareness and express myself through the idea of unity and understand that I'm a particular part of the body of humanity and you are a different part of the body of humanity. And I can choose to move through my life experience based upon that understanding and the understanding that well, let me back up. I'm going to say this differently. How do you choose? Let's pose it as a question. How do you choose that whether or not you're going to see separation as real or unity as real, or separation as an illusion or unity as an illusion? How do you choose? I think the choice is made either consciously or unconsciously, depending on where you are, based upon what you believe is going to serve you best. And so if you are operating from a certain point of view in your evolution, in the evolution of your consciousness, you may be operating from the perspective of, needing to establish a certain level of stability in the outside world, depending on what your home life has been like and what your past has been like and what you've been facing in your external environment. You need to make decisions to stabilize at a level of need. And there's a certain amount of separation inherent in that. I need to make X number of dollars. I need to find a place to live. I need to feed my family. These are all on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a little bit lower down. And I guess the step that I think is maybe not necessary, or maybe we have an opportunity to evolve as human beings in our understanding, is that just because you need these things doesn't mean that someone else needs to go without them, or it doesn't imply that there's not enough for everybody to go around. I think that we've kind of been programmed with this shortage consciousness. I think it goes way back. Our cells remember the days when we lived in tribes and we had to figure out how to grow enough food or move around and find enough animals to, keep everybody alive. It was a biological and genetic imperative to do that. So, but we're still kind of operating from that space, even though we're starting to realize that we have evolved to a place where we can provide a lot more food to a lot more people. We're beginning to realize that we can generate a lot of energy in very inexpensive ways. I was reading a really great article the other day about geothermal and the energy that's available in the first few miles of the Earth's crust that we haven't harnessed or tapped into. And I love to kind of contemplate and speculate about the energy in the atmosphere that Nikola Tesla was referring to. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that taking care of your basic needs doesn't necessarily have to mean that anyone else in your environment has to go without. Perhaps there's a paradigm shift available to us in this regard. So those misunderstandings that lead to a commitment to separation may not any longer have a leg to stand on. Whereas if you understand that, and if as more of humanity evolves beyond those kind of basic needs, if you ask yourself, does it serve me better to seek unity or seek separation from that kind of higher vantage point of awareness? Kind of lift your perception to the upper room or to the point of view of the higher self. You start to realize that unity, or the idea of unity, or committing to perceiving unity, can only serve you and everyone else. So am I making a point? I'm not sure. I think that I don't want to suggest that one way or the other is better in terms of seeking either separation or unity and finding it. I just think that there are those among us who are, because of our environment or because of the energy that we are incarnating in, they are tuned to the frequency of separation, or the frequencies of separation, and they're going to find it. And then I think that there are those among us who, because of the energy of our incarnation and the environment and our response to our environment, are tuned to the frequencies of unity, and we're going to find it. And I think ultimately, in the body of humanity, there must be a balance struck between these two things. I think that there may be a mutation, an evolution of, Richard Rudd refers to the genetic concept of a frame shift mutation in his gene key synthesis, where we take sort of a quantum leap as a species, or even as the body of humanity, or even as, if you look at the concept of Gaia and the relationship of the human race, the human species, in the body of Gaia, that we may be entering into kind of a new Earth. To a lot of people, this topic seems scary. A lot of people don't want to address the concept of a new Earth within the context of what we're experiencing now as a species on the planet. I think we have a choice there too. We can be afraid of the evolution that may be coming, or the involution that may be coming, or we can be excited by it. It seems to make sense to me that if we are approaching a frame shift mutation or an evolution of our consciousness collectively, that it would be in the direction of an increased awareness of our inherent unity. Based upon the patterns that we can observe from the past and the direction we've been moving, it makes sense that the next stage would be a releasing of the idea of separation and a commitment to the idea of unity. And in fact, perhaps we'll find ourselves in a space where we don't even know how to understand separation any longer. I really like the idea of that. So, I think I've gotten some of my initial point across. Oh, one more thing I did want to say. I think if you commit to the idea of unity, I would challenge that nothing can be excluded. And within the body of humanity, I think we would say no one can be excluded. So it doesn't really work to say that you're committed to unity, except for those people who have a differing political opinion, as an example. There's a fundamental misunderstanding of the concept. Unity is unity, and it inherently can't exclude. One of the teachers that has impacted me greatly is Paul Selig, who channels non-physical energy. I think they have referred to themselves as the guides or as Melchizedek. In some of the writings I've read from Paul in his books, the guides tell us that everything is of God or nothing is. And that feels right to me. Everything is of God or nothing is, which paradoxically would mean that everything is. I'm not well educated in statistics or logical statements, all that kind of stuff. All I can do is kind of express what I've been thinking about and see if it resonates. So, if you are well-versed in kind of logic or systems theory, and you've made it this far into the contemplation, and you can kind of point me in the direction of how to express that, thank you in advance for your service. So, okay, I think that was the last piece that I wanted to share. If you if you do seek unity, you will find it, but perhaps contemplate that it can't exclude anyone or anything. Otherwise, it's not unity. This has been episode number 11 of the LoveCast. I'm Jared Treadway, and until we meet again, I'm sending you love and light.